Hello everybody, welcome back to multanon.com. So, imagine this. You're working on a project for a client and what they want is a corridor of book pages, like a long corridor or basically a row of pages. Something like this. And it's been a week since you got the assignment and you came up with this animation in 3D Studio Max, for example, or any other 3D package. You brought it into After Effects, did some compositing, added some glows, reflections, backgrounds and stuff, and you're basically pretty happy with your work. So you send it out to your client, and the client says, well, didn't we tell you it's gonna be a cooking book? Like a cookbook, with recipes for cakes and pies and something like that? And you say, no? Well, we need a cake or of some kind on the book pages, on the borders of the pages, because otherwise people won't know what it is. So, okay, you go back to your 3D application, you download a photo of a cake from Stock Exchange, and then you spend countless hours on figuring out how to actually put the frickin' cake on the book pages. So you spend another couple of hours cutting your texture into vertical stripes and then applying those to those book pages, and you end up with something like this. You send it out to your client, and the client gets back to you and says, well, yeah, this is quite cool, but unfortunately, the cooking book publication was cancelled, and now we're doing sports encyclopedia. I know this is an extreme example, but I bet something like that happened to you. So don't you think it would be just wonderful if you could somehow apply the texture to your 3D rendered animation using After Effects? You could change it on the fly, make adjustments, even animate it, and not have to worry about re-rendering anything or client making changes, right? Well, from this day forward, you can. Check this out. Here we have the original composition, and of course it's a proxy working right now, but that's not the point. So let's just turn off the proxy, and let's take our ski jumper, which is, for sports encyclopedia, looks okay. Here's our ski jumper texture, animated. It's just a photo of ski jumper, nothing too fancy, but you would like to put that onto your book pages. So how do you actually do that? Well, I just came out with a new plugin called Youveelizer, and it's meant to help you with exactly this situation. Let's go back to the original comp. And to actually use my Youveelizer plugin, you need something that is called a UV pass. And the UV pass looks more or less like this. As you can see, here are the edges of the pages, and they are colored in a very specific way, and you don't really have to worry about how to do that because your 3D application is going to take care of that. This is something that is called a UV pass. Each of these colors represents a point on your texture that is then going to replace this color. So let's just take advantage of that. As you can see, they are synced perfectly with the pages and everything. So all we have to do now is to replace this with our ski jumper texture. So to do that, we simply apply the Youveelizer just like that, and we pick our texture ski jumper. Now, since the texture is actually bigger than our composition, and that's the default settings for the crop top and crop bottom corner, we need to check what size it is. And I've made this texture somewhat close to the actual length of that whole row of book pages. So let's just go ahead and see how big that is. Well, it's 2545 by 700. Okay. Let's just type that in. 2545 by 700. And whoa, there we go. That's pretty much it. There we go. We can change the texture on the fly, have the project ready for the client, with no hassle, re-rendering, or worrying about all other stuff. So this is very, very useful, and this is actually a real world example. This is a real project that I did for a sports encyclopedia, obviously. So let me just show you a simpler example. Here we have a sample scene that consists of several renders. First of all, we've got the radiosity, we've got diffuse, we've got UV, obviously, and we've got ambient occlusion. So basically we're just gonna blend them all together like that, and we have the additional alpha channel, which for some reason was missing from the original file, so I just faked it in Photoshop and saved it as a PNG. So that's it. And let's say you want to apply this texture onto those shapes. So as you can see, those are just some coins, and we want to apply those on our 3D scene. So let me just make some room here and just close this down, turn the texture off because we obviously don't need it, and we're gonna apply my Youveelizer to this UV pass layer. As you can see, again, the layer references itself as a texture, so that's not what we want, and we're just gonna pick our photo for the texture. Looks nice. So now again, we just gotta check what size it is. So we can take advantage of the new search box in CS4 and just type in iStock. Okay, here it is. And it's 3000 by 2000, more or less. We don't have to be that precise. And there we go. So let's just go through the basic settings of this plugin. We've got cropping, so we can crop the texture, change the area that is actually being sampled and overlaid on top of our shapes. We've got repeating. We can repeat up to 10 times on both axes, X and Y, obviously. We've got tile patterns. So to actually demo that, I need to create a repeat tile like that. And we've got two types of repeating, regular repeat or mirror, and the same thing on the Y axis as well. We can, for example, flip the coordinate system. We can flip the X, we can flip the Y, or we can flip both. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. We can offset the texture, just like that. And please note how fast that works. If you've been working with 3D, you know how long things take to render. So having a tool like that is really gonna work for you. Also, we've got this additional very mysterious feature, which in most cases you don't even have to touch, you don't have to worry about this. But to actually understand how it works, I need to explain a little bit how the UV maps work. Basically, they consist of two channels, red and green. Blue should be theoretically black. This is like ignoring blue channel. In this case, it doesn't change anything because this is a perfect UV map, but there might be cases when this can be useful. And once you're gonna cut off the values, you can replace the pixels with either the UV map or the texture. Other than that, we have the UV liquefier, which basically creates like a glass effect on the UV map. Let me just pump it up to 100%, and you're gonna see how that works. See, it basically warps around the edges, something like that. I thought that this is quite a cool effect, and maybe you'd like to use something like that. So it's just a fun parameter to play with. And of course, we've got final result as a view mode, texture, and the UV map. So usually you want to work with final results, and we also have some alpha blending options, which in this case we're not going to use because this image has a straight alpha channel, so we don't have to worry about it. But smart blend is basically what you want to work with. Okay, so that's Youveelizer in a nutshell, and let's move to a more interesting example. Just get rid of this, and I have this piece of footage in here. Let me just zoom out a little bit. And as we can see, it's a guy holding a gun moving away from the wall. Like, why is he moving away from the wall? What's so scary in the wall? Well, nothing really, but the wall is not what he's scared of. He's actually scared of the big, huge freaking robot. And this looks pretty good on its own. It's a very rough composite, as you can see. We didn't do any color correction or anything like that. But we know for a fact that this robot is very shiny and it should reflect the environment that it's in. So doing reflections in 3D is a huge pain, not to mention that you would have to probably shoot some high dynamic range images on the set and then light the robot with that, and, you know, all the additional work and rendering. You know, it would be kind of cool if we could avoid that. And actually, with my Youveelizer and my CE light trap, we can do that. So let's just go ahead and put a normal pass to this comp. Now, normal pass is a little bit different than the UV pass, but I'm not gonna focus on the technical details in here. I'm just gonna tell you what we're gonna do. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cast the surrounding lights on the robot, and we're gonna make the robot reflect the environment. So let's just go ahead and do that. We're gonna get rid of the roto mask for now, and we're just gonna pre-compose all this and call this robot reflections. Let's just go in here, turn off the footage because we don't need it, we're gonna be reflecting it, and let's apply my Youveelizer to the normal pass render. And here we're just gonna pick footage just like that. As you can see, normal maps work a little bit different than UV passes because they don't stick to the surface, they shift around the surface just like the reflection would. So having that done, we can now probably add a little bit of blur. Let's add a fast blur effect to this. Repeat edge pixels, maybe radius of 2. And now let's try overlaying that on top of our robot. And yeah, that looks pretty good on its own. So let's just go back to the footage, put the footage back in again, put our roto mask in, like that, and tell the robot to take its alpha channel from the inverted Luna mask. Okay, that looks fine. So the only thing left to do is to add a CE light wrap onto the robot, like that. Pick the source layer, which is footage in this case, and make sure we have the color matching on. Yes, it's on. Take a look how different it looks without color matching. This is with color matching. It has this goldish tint, and without it, it's kind of bluish. So color matching is a really nice feature in here. And yeah, there we go. Pretty decent composite without any additional work. And take a look how fast it renders. Really, rendering something like that out of a 3D application with reflection, with all that lights, would take a lot of time and effort, and you would probably have to deal with some undersampling artifacts, and if you've been doing this, then you know exactly what I mean. So again, to sum up, Youveelizer is my new plugin for After Effects CS4 and above. It's cross-platform, so it will work on your Mac and on your PCs, and it's meant to apply textures or reflections to your 3D objects in After Effects. It's gonna save you time and most of all give you the flexibility you need to be efficient in your work. So once again, this is Maltenan for maltenan.com. I hope you've enjoyed this short introduction tutorial. See you next time. Happy After Effecting!